Hi, welcome back to another episode of I Mustache You Something. We are hot on the heels of the last episode, and we got to figure out when we're going to release this one because this is the first time we're recording back to back, which is very exciting. We were going to go change our clothes, but we figured, well, we're too eager to jump back into it. So the last episode, Mitch dropped a bomb at the end. So Mitch, you want to tell us your
Yeah.
position?
Or maybe you've
So
changed your mind in the last five
no,
minutes.
Right. The Cheetos and
no,
the beef sticks changed your
Huh?
mind.
no. I'm pretty aligned on this one. So the all these little things
Like
that we
what?
disagree with, like priest matrimony, like priest being like get married, not get married. Pick any little thing where you disagree with the church with. Like I disagree about this, I disagree about this, I disagree about this. Pick up.
Hmm.
And you go, actually, I do it this way. Like, yeah, I'm this denomination, but like I do it this different way. Each one of those compiled up is you giving the proverbial finger to the church. And you may disagree and you may not like it, but that's cope, in my opinion. And you end up being outside the church. Like enough little things add up to a lot, and you find yourself outside the church.
I think you
And I
said in
said in
hell.
hell.
In
Yeah,
hell.
Yes.
and yeah,
All
in
these
hell.
little things add up to
I don't
hell.
know. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm using hell like in a very like tongue-in-cheek term, but like maybe not. I don't know. Like, who am I to say who goes to hell or who doesn't go to hell? But the idea of like compromise, 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 compromise. Eventually, are you even recognizable? That's the question.
Are you talking? So you're talking. Nothing is peripheral to you. Everything is essential. There is no mere Christianity. C.S. Lewis was wrong to talk about mere Christianity because to you, it is all essential. Every single thing is essential.
Who am I to say what's essential and
I'm
what's not essential?
asking you a
No, no, no.
question. I'm not asking the
And
magisterium.
I'm
I'm asking
answering, and
you.
I'm answering, and I'm answering. Who am I to say what's essential and what's not essential?
Well,
Making your bed. Wait, wait, wait. No, no, don't talk over me. If you're going to be mouthy, let's do this. So, who are you to say what's essential and what's not essential? As like I told you, there's a rule book. I don't go, well, that's important, that's not important. I'm not God. So if someone tells me something's important, then it is. If the church says this actually isn't important, we're like we have space here. Hence, like the document that on Mary that came out, it's like, hey, it's not anathema to say this, but we prefer you not to say it. Then now they're not saying what I can. They're trying to limit my bounds. So I have the ability to disagree within those bounds. But if I am actively saying like this is I'm outside of the church on anything specifically where they tell me not to be, then who's to say it's important, not important? Well, there
I,
you go. So that's
we're,
my point. My point is, at some point, I am not God and I am not Pope. I follow the rules. So if you want to say like, oh, this isn't important, well, maybe to you it's not important. But how many of those things build up on themselves and you find yourself in proverbial hell?
I
Like
don't.
example.
Uh,
It's not terrible to have a soda every now and again, but after a while it becomes pretty terrible and you end up a fat person. That's what it is. It's like on the road to hell is paved by good intentions. That's my point.
That,
I think
Now
that's
I'm done. I'll get off my
that's
soapbox.
a very critical point to define the church, the authority, the Pope. And it's not about the difference between East and West or Latin and non-Latin, but it's about the value of the individual Christian as a part of a community or a congregation or a church. In the East, and we cannot generalize this, but Athanasius was a deacon in Nicaea. Habib Girgis was an archdeacon in the Holy Synod in our Coptic Church. Spiritual father for example, for Pope Shenouda was a regular priest, and so on and so forth. So that's the tricky point between the East and the West. Costi for example, was a spiritual father of the Antiochian Orthodox movement, and he was kind of guidance to Metropolitan afterwards, and he was a layman. So, d d are you getting what I'm trying to
I'm not.
emphasize here?
No.
no, I'm lost.
Be a little
Like,
more explicit, Sharif.
hmm?
Be a little more explicit, please.
So in Orthodoxy or in the East in general, including Catholic Oriental Church or Catholic Eastern Church, there is more role for the individual, more respect for the individual as a part of the body, in contrast with the institution of the church in the West. And this is a double-edged sword. And the examples that I've had, there are individuals that they have even more authority than clergy.
Okay.
Not maybe not a legal authority, but at least a spiritual and pastoral authority.
So let me ask you a
So
question.
yeah.
Going on, going on what both Sharif and Mitch said. Look, but I'll ask Mitch. Did Luther say anything correctly? Did Luther, when Luther, forget about Luther's
Hmm.
apostasy, and I'll call it apostasy just for you, Mitch.
Yes. The answer is yes, because we had the Council of Trent right after. But the rules are still the rules until they're not the rules. Like that's the point. The point is you can say in charity, hey, I think this is an issue. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to like follow the rules, play the game. But I think like we need to change. And then you have a Council of Trent. Same with like Vatican 2.0, which is people had issues. We followed the rules until the rules don't follow it, until the rules change. And again, because coming from the West, this is how you build giant empires. This is how you build things. You get people in line to do things, and and it's a flaw. And like I'm sure you said, it's a double-edged sword because you can get a lot of people to do a lot of terrible things, which we've done throughout history. However, the impact goes farther. To the young man out there today, I will say this: practically speaking, to the young 20-year-old man who's confused about orthodoxy or not, whatever you choose, do so and listen to others. And you're not in charge. God's in charge. And then you have a hierarchy you follow. And if you follow that, you will have more likely to have success in a system like that than you will if everyone's kind of making things up and you decide on your own. You need to follow a structure. And I think that the loosey goosiness is a road of good intentions where you end up in proverbial
You're
hell.
you're 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 making a straw man. First of all, Jesus never built an empire. He's building a kingdom, not an empire. So I know you Romans and the Holy Roman Empire, neither holy, neither Roman nor an empire. Can you block your kid's face? Or yeah. So Christ wasn't building an empire. You guys build empires. We don't. Um, and you know, we're all kings and priests at the end of the day. I mean, that's what the Bible says. So I don't really understand your, I will say, feigned ignorance that you don't know what the essentials of the Christian faith are. Not everything can be essential. Not everything. When you highlight everything, you highlight nothing. If someone came up to you and said, "Give me the centrality of the Christian faith," St. Paul said, "Christ crucified." That's the centrality of the Christian faith. We have the creed. The creed tells us what the centrality of the Christian faith is. There is no wishy-washy, slippery slope. The creed is the creed. The truth that the creed demonstrates, whether it's a narrative or not, like we talked about in the last episode, it's our drawing of the sun. But not everything under the sun is essential to being a good Christian or being someone who's going to go to heaven. And disagreeing with a non-essential, and I know those in power want to make everything essential and have everyone, get in line. But that's not. I'm sort of
We can
shocked to
agree
hear.
to, yeah, we can say that I would my point is I would say you're speaking from this is me being rude, just highlight as someone a generation older than me. Sure, you guys have that luxury. You live in this world of like, yeah, no, what feels like you guys figure it out. We grew up in that world of like you figure it out, and it hasn't worked for us at all. The average young man is lost, man. And so when we come into the church and it's still this world of like, well, we have some essential stuff and this is less essential. You have to do it, but it's less essential. No, none of that anymore. I'm done with that. You have to commit to everything or commit to nothing. And that's why we have a rule book that you follow. And that's why I don't spend a lot of time thinking about those rules, because if I follow those rules, my life is going to be better. That's a fact. If I just follow the rule book, I know based on the Lindy principle that my life is going to be better. If I'm questioning every little bit of thing, then I don't have I
No
we
one's
got too many
question again,
problems.
your straw man is a straw man. No one's questioning every little thing.
Well, I'm
But
not
they
questioning what's important, what's not important. That's my point. My point I'm saying is like I'm not
but
here
you
to say
know
what's
what's
important.
important already. You know what's important. You know what's
I do
important.
I
Yeah, you do.
do
You know what's important, and you've made compromises in your own personal life to accommodate what you know is important. And for you to pretend otherwise, this is me being rude,
good.
and for you to pretend otherwise is just a facade because you've made choices in your life that you perceive to be relevant and that you perceive to still be in accord with essential Christian faith, and you've made those decisions. You didn't make those decisions because you want your kids to go to hell. You didn't make those decisions because you don't care about your salvation. You made those decisions because inside your heart and inside your head, and I've only known you for about a month, but inside your head and inside your heart, you know what's essential and what's not essential.
So I've made decisions and I'm currently making them about family and church, and I've kind of have the baby. And I would say
Are you
that
going to
that is
hell
something
because of
that
that? Is this a slippery
I
slope? Are
don't
you going to hell?
maybe. And my point is,
No.
you again, we don't know, right? My point is, what I'm doing currently isn't aligned with my actual belief, and it's causing strain in my life. Not
And
like it doesn't. So like that's my point. My point is like there are things about the Coptic Church that concern me gravely, and I am as a compromise I've made in my family to continue to go this because I think the structure is important. I think that being cat like the Catholic structure is super important. And there are answers to questions I have that we can get into at a different time because each one's all hour long. But the question we're asking right now is it that I have is can we make up our own? Is mere Christianity enough? And the answer in my experience outside of the church, doing things like a little bit and doing things in the spirit of doesn't work. And it leads to a bad road. It's what my parents did. And it led to a problem. I'm the only one who's religious in my family, which is fine. I love my siblings. Do I think that that's a problem? Yeah. And do I treat the religion with the lack of seriousness that my parents did? Do I think that's going to reflect on my kids? 100%.
Yeah, but you can't
So
take a broad brush on everyone who has essentials to the Christian faith and then say, well, I mean, if you're gonna question one thing, then you might as well just, throw it all to the wind. That's not true. That doesn't happen. You're looking at four people who don't think that way, who are very, very tied to their faith, who are very, very tied to
yeah, but
their to
sure.
their to the essentials of the Christian faith.
What were your parents like essentialist, or were they more wishy-washy with how they raised you? That's a legitimate question for
They
each
were
one of them. I
My
don't hate.
essentialists.
parents were
They
very,
they were not wishy-washy. They were
Right,
orthodox, straight way.
right.
That's what
Yeah.
orthodox means. That's what they
But
were.
that
But they also weren't legalists, and they also weren't literalists. They were also, intellectual people who followed the church and the pope and the bishops and did what they had to do, but also thought for themselves outside of what was essential to the Christian faith.
yeah.
Well, it's a little bit
Go ahead,
different
mate.
because if you grew up in Egypt, the vast majority were even more essentialists than you can imagine.
Mm.
Sorry, not more essential. Like everything was essential,
Right.
Yeah.
and everything need to be followed to the penny. And then we had the conversion when we grew up, when we start reading, and when I immigrated to the States. That's a conversion,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
I'm happy that I had it. But to your point, Mitch, having an institution, having rules, and we need to follow, absolutely essential. But But we should, in orthodoxy, if someone XYZ in my youth meeting or my high school class or whatever, he has question and he's challenging the essential and challenging everything, I think in the East we have a little bit more room to go back and forth and to be politically correct one time and to be manipulative one time and like to really understand what's going on. But the very important thing that I want to highlight here is the role of a spiritual father as individual. Because we spoke about me as an individual, I have the right to think and to negate and to disagree. But now there is the discerning power of a spiritual father, which I don't follow him blindly. Like my own spiritual father back in Egypt, or talk to him from time to time, we disagree on half of the things. But at a certain point, he can say, you know what, this is a dangerous, slippery slope.
Mm,
I,
Right.
mm,
I need to discern.
And going off what now I'm getting what Sharif said early
mm,
on, it we would not have a Nicene Creed if it wasn't for an 18-year-old deacon who looked at the world and said, well, that's the story. The world is against you, Athanasius. And he said, well, I'm against the world. He had bishops, he had a whole church structure that was going against him, and he stood up against that world and said, no, we wouldn't have monasticism if it wasn't for St. Anthony basically turning his back. If you go and look at literally what happened, he turned his back on the institution and walked into the desert to find God. We grew up with those stories. So, and those stories changed the world. Those individuals changed the world. Anthony wasn't following in the footsteps of anyone. Athanasius wasn't following. I mean, he ultimately was by looking at the prior 3 centuries of the church, but we wouldn't if they fell in line, we'd all be heretics right now.
And if everyone did that, if every
Well,
single
that's the
person,
question. That's not
every
for every
single,
single person. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
right?
not. It's not for every single
So that
person.
then who's it? But that's my point. It's like who's it for then? If it's not for every single person, and there needs to be there, it's like bees, right? So bees find pollen, they bring it back, they do their little dance. 80% of those bees go to find that exact same pollen. 20% don't listen. They just go out and do their thing. That works. That's the structure that's acceptable for bees. That's the number that keeps this hive alive and like still exploring. But there's got to be a but if everyone was those percentage of bees that just went out, you would have chaos. If you had 100%. So I think what I'm trying to get at here is the Chesterton rule, be very careful about taking down a fence if you don't know why it was built.
mm, mm,
Totally agree.
mm,
Totally, absolutely right.
mm. And I want to make a distinction here because I think we're blurring two things. One is dogma theology, and the other one is behavior orthopraxy. And I think we're also conflating my intentions with my ability. And I think, at least at this point in Christianity, I don't think there's a lot of, theology to work out. Like all of the heretics came and went, and all of the theologians came and went, and all of the important questions have been asked and answered. And now
No, no, not all of the important questions. We have a lot of new questions that we need to answer.
you
Like
think so?
what?
You think that there's new heresies that aren't just a
Right.
like
There's nothing new under the sun. It's the same
right?
thing.
Like you don't think that
Well,
everything is an asked and answered heresy that's just a modern
Mhm.
reinterpretation of the same
medical
confusion?
ethics,
Say it again.
LGBTQ, medical ethics, LGBTQ, AI, environmental. We had traces of those heresies in the past, but now they can be highly emphasized, and we need theological answers.
I agree that the application um, is new and the concept of personhood. So Sharif came with me to
Anthropology,
um,
back.
right. and we did an entire, Ocamper conference, like the Orthodox Christian Association of Medicine, Psychology, and Religion. There's a whole conference on personhood, and we thought we were going to get more contributions and papers and workshops on AI, and people weren't quite ready for it. I think it's still an ongoing question, and what constitutes consciousness and what constitutes a rational, created human being. Whether we have, as humans, the agency and the capacity to create a human being through something that is not just natural, childbirth. Those are outstanding questions, but they're reinterpretations and reimaginings and re-answerings of questions that have already been asked and answered, and we're relying on that foundation. So applying the modern lens and a modern hermeneutic to an existing asked and answered paradigm is all I'm saying. But I think the thing that is lacking and that is the gap is not just we as an institution applying these sort of modern questions and modern problems, but me as an individual, right? Like St. Paul in Romans 7 is very clear. Like, listen, I get what I'm supposed to be doing. I just don't do it, right? And, you know,
Well,
I,
he's
I,
saying that.
uh, listen, I have to take him at his word, right?
Yeah, I
So,
take him at his word, but I don't know if I'm taking him at his word as he's given a public confession or I'm taking him at his word as he's given a general, broad, I feel you. I don't think we can
Actually,
say
it was
one
a
way or the
public
other.
yeah.
confession.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, to me, it seems sincere because he's also sincere elsewhere where he says, listen, in front of the law, I'm blameless, right? So I don't think that for him, it's, this sort of legalistic, like, did I do anything wrong? But if, we follow what Christ said, like if, I lust with my eyes, then I've lusted, I've
Hmm.
committed adultery in my heart, right? And I'm going to take St. Paul at his word that he is very sincere and honest when he says that, he is under the power of sin, just like you and me. And he's not just doing me a favor and just saying that because he knows that Mina's struggling and he's going to read this one day and he needs somebody that he respects to say, oh, and has to speak, I'm also struggling. I think he really is actually also struggling. Maybe not in act, maybe not in deed. Maybe he's perfect in terms of as he acts and in the law, but in his heart, he knows that he's limited.
Well,
And
because he's Saint Paul, and whatever he's dealing with is way far advanced and at a higher plane of battle than I do. I sin at the slightest poke.
Right.
He's
I'm looking
he
for, what my favorite part of the Our Father is? Where
lead
we
us not.
say, lead us, exactly, lead us not into temptation. And I'm like, if I'm really honest, I'm like, but
I don't need a guide. I don't need a guide.
if it's a really good temptation, I'm not going to say no.
Right,
Like,
right,
right? Lead us not into temptation unless it's worth it,
right,
right?
right, right.
So yeah, I think we need to be careful and make sure that we're going to accept wholeheartedly what the church says about God, about Trinity, about the incarnate Word, about our salvation, the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives, the need for the
About
sacrament.
holiness,
Right.
about
The
sin,
whole
about
thing,
there's no doubt.
right?
Right,
I'm not going to pick and choose and be like, yeah, well, I'm going to take communion, but I'm not going to confess. No,
right,
no, 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 no. Like, if you want to take communion, you have to confess, right?
right.
And we're not
But that's
talking
not really the
about,
body and blood.
But
That's
which one
yeah,
was more? To kind of get back on the rest, like which one is more important? Are
they're
they all? So it's
sacraments. They're
all
all important. The sacraments are
right.
important.
I'm all I'm
Sacraments are important.
all I'm saying is that I want to make sure that we're clear that nobody's questioning
The essentials of
my
the Christian faith.
responsibility to act in faith in accordance with what the church is asking me to believe and
Right.
act in faith in accordance with what the church is asking me to do, right? Like
Well,
I'm
no, I'm
all
still questioning what I should believe.
But I think the
And I
church in
think
her
we
wisdom,
should have this space.
but we should have what space?
Like, for example, you're talking about confession.
uh,
Do you 100% believe in the secret confession on a priest? I
Right.
do. But if somebody is
As
not
opposed
believing,
to what? What's the alternative?
so in a part of our Coptic history, there was a confession on the Sharia, on the censer, like during the procession of the Pauline Epistle and the when the priest is
So you
going
didn't
with the
have to say it
censer.
out loud to the priest, is that true?
At that time, because there was a corruption in the priesthood.
I didn't know that.
And do we know if public confession or like confession on the priest was there in the first century, second century, third century, or came later?
Well,
I
I mean, we
believe in
do
that.
know that there was public confession, right? Where it
Hmm.
wasn't
Was yeah, public
between me and
confession
the
in front
priest,
of
it was
everyone.
between me and the entire congregation. We know
Yeah,
that was true.
but it was not the norm. It was not the standard. It was there.
Yeah, but nothing
Right,
was the
because the
norm.
community
Nothing
was
was
That
the
smaller
standard.
and not 4,000 people, you know.
yeah. So that's my point. If I have a high schooler in my class questioning this,
Uh,
and I know for me it's essential for my salvation. Should I brush him off and said, "Oh, no, no, take it or leave it," or I
No,
have
you
a
bring him to
faith?
confession.
Hmm?
by
You
his
bring
ear,
him to
like you pull him
confession.
like this.
Yes, you bring him to
Or give him a
confession.
ticket. Yes, I can give him tickets and send it. Or
No,
You
gift
but
bring
cards.
him
like,
to
no,
confession.
I personally I'll question everything under the sun and I will drill down. And for sure, I will encourage this kid, he or she, to do the same. At the same time, I wouldn't give them the impression at all that it's optional. I don't know
Right.
that I don't think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I said it's essential for me, but it's if it's not essential for you at this time and moment, let's get off what is essential for you and take it from there. Because if we
I'm
set
going to
it,
turn into Mitch and I'm going to say,
I'm going to turn into Mitch too.
yeah, no, I find that concerning.
I'm looser now.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just listen, like I don't think I'm a fundamentalist, right? I also don't feel comfortable saying that I have the authority to tell a kid take it or leave it when it comes to a sacrament of the church.
Right.
I
Amen.
don't, I don't think that makes me a fundamentalist to be like, listen, at least do me the personal favor of going to a priest and saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable with confession right now. Can I continue to take communion and have it come from the
Right.
priest?
Right.
And this is the
Exactly.
same
Well,
answer that I
coupling
give.
confession and communion, I don't think that's very orthodox, but like we can talk about this
Okay,
in another
but
session.
and this is where I'm going to turn into Mitch, where I'm going to say, oh, it's not my place whether they're coupled or uncoupled, they're entangled, they're quantum, they're no. The church says yeah, this and this. I'm going to say this and this, and as far as I'm concerned, I can question everything under the sun. If a kid asks me whether it's my kid or somebody else's, I'm going to say, listen, as far as I'm concerned, they're both essential. If you want to get permission to do one and not the other, you can talk to the priest, and that's between you and the priest. And I say that also about something that I actually think is completely wrong, which is and I don't know if you have this in the Catholic Church, Mitch, that women are not allowed to take um,
Yeah,
communion
no,
or
it's not a thing. That was
that's
so
not the
weird when I
thing.
came
That's
in.
the
I was like,
stupidest
wait,
thing. It's the stupidest possible thing,
Hmm.
right? And if a girl asks me, which they don't, obviously, like this is a
Well, I
hypothetical,
was asked, and I'll
right?
tell you my answer, but like,
But
tell me your
like I'll
answer,
tell you my
your
answer, which
hypothetical
is
answer.
listen, it's not my place to tell you that you can't or can or can't. I'm going to tell you I think it's completely stupid and they should get rid of the rule. But to Mitch's point, right now it's a rule. And if you want to break that rule and you want to take communion when you have your period, you talk to the priest. You don't talk to this guy. You talk to that guy. That's the guy that has the power and the authority to give you the absolution. And it's between you and the priest whether you have sort of a standing absolution to take it wherever you want. And even if you're at a different church that, they might be more strict, it's none of anybody's business whether you have your period or not. Go ahead and take communion. Or if the priest tells you, well, at this parish with me, take it, but elsewhere follow the rules, whatever the priest says is correct because he has the authority to say yes or no, and he has the authority to adjudicate whether we're going to follow this specific rule. I can question the rule till my kids and their kids' kids eventually change the rule, and it's a stupid rule, but it's still a rule.
but the priest is the call. It's a clarified question. The
Yeah.
priest is the authority on that decision,
Yes.
Right.
and
And
that's what I'm. Yeah,
Sharif
then
is going
that's
to get
back to my.
extremely.
So
Everybody,
in
it
Sharif,
was nice
let's
knowing
talk about it.
Sharif. we love
But that,
Sharif, but he's no longer going to be Coptic as soon as this episode airs.
I'll add
that yeah, go
HG
ahead.
to my title and I'll give my own rule.
So d defend your position, Sharif, because I don't think you
Defend
have
my
ground to
position,
stand
yeah.
on.
It's a pure pastoral position. So one time, very bright, like young lady came to me, new to the church. She's born Coptic, raised Coptic, but she's new to the service and the church. It was not in Natick, it was somewhere in the south, a little bit more conservative too. So, and the question was, why the Coptic church discriminate against women by prohibiting them from taking communion during this time? And the answer was, if you want to take communion, you go and take communion, and I will talk to the priest. I brought Abuna. Abuna, I told the girls, one, two, three, what do you think? And I think you will agree with me. I use my flexing muscle on Abuna.
But
He
that
agreed.
you still did exactly what I said,
No,
but
no,
you
no.
just did it
But I
differently.
told her you go, and then I spoke to the priest. I thought I'll forget about this rule. You go, and then I spoke to the priest, and he was convinced.
Well, the problem with that, and there's so many problems with that.
Yeah,
The
I no,
no, no
problem
I,
with
I
problem.
that,
I
the
thought I
problem
thought you
with that
talked to the
is
priest first. If
Nope.
you just talked to the priest
the
first,
problem with
there would
that
have
is
been
that
no issue.
you stuck your nose in between a potential relationship with that she can have, furthering a relationship with her priest. And that's the worst thing that you did. The worst thing that you did is that you took it upon yourself to interfere with her relationship with that priest. And you said, I'll take care of it. And it wasn't up to you to take care of it. It was up to her to take care of it.
Well, the priest doesn't speak
Forget
English.
about menstrual cycles. Forget about all that stuff. The
It's about the
fact that
Please
authority.
the
forget
fact that
about it, please.
It's
the
about the
fact that
authority of
you
a servant.
the fact that it doesn't matter. We're all servants, and I've had that question come to me, and questions about drugs and questions about anything. And my goal is to make them meet Jesus and meet their priest. And a lot of times they need that communication. It's not up to me to tackle the football that or whatever. I'm not into sports, but whatever it is when they
You
take
don't
that,
say.
they throw that football and someone interception or something. You just did an interception when you
Yeah.
shouldn't have intercepted.
That was
You
the
should have.
sloppiest metaphor,
Yeah,
but it
I'm not.
actually worked. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know
like an
how you
intercept.
bumbled and stumbled into that metaphor, but it actually worked.
I'm not a sports guy, but
No,
that's
but
what
you
you
got it.
did.
You nailed it.
But that's what you
Yeah, and
did,
that's
man.
exactly what I wanted to do.
No,
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 but
Thank
that's
you.
not
no,
what you're
no.
supposed to do.
No, no, you're playing for
Well,
the wrong team in that case, with all respect. with all
I,
respect.
I, I,
No,
So,
no,
let me ask a question.
listen,
No, can I ask a question, Sharif?
yeah.
So, why
yeah.
did you feel like that was your? So, this is my question. So, authority in this situation rests in the Catholic Church rests with the priest to make that call. That's cool. That's the authority. And this is my point about who gets to make the call.
Mm.
Sharif, you believe that at that moment, that time, you had the ability to make that call. Is that correct?
On
Am I
behalf
understanding
of
you
the
correctly?
priest. On
On
behalf
behalf
of
of
the
the
priest.
priest, as like a servant of the priest. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. The deacon is the eye of the bishop, and the servant is the eye of the priest. And because I have a strong relation with the priest and I read his mind and I can convince him and influence him, I advocated for both. The priest by itself will not have the courage at that time, not today. That was 10 years ago. At that time, he didn't have enough courage
Then
to.
you talk to the priest and say, hey, you know what? Mary's going to come talk to you tomorrow.
Right.
Mary's
You
going to
prep
come talk
him,
to you tomorrow.
right. And whatever he
And,
decides.
right. And
Well, like I
foster
put
that
him
conversation.
on the spot.
Foster that conversation because isn't that what you ultimately want? You want people to grow in their relationship with their father of confession. You want people to grow in their relationship with their priest. You don't want people to grow
Yeah.
in a relationship with you, Sharif.
No, no,
It
no.
sounds like you have a great relationship. But
I
what's
put
Sharif,
your
him on the
it
relationship with the
spot
sounds
and
priest?
then left. And
Sharif,
put
it
him on the
sounds
spot
like
and
you single-handedly proved Mitch's point. So this started out 3-1, right? This was like this. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, Mitch, you couldn't be more wrong. Why are you so black and white, bro? Why are you so rigid? Yo, ease up, bro. Like, what? And then all of a sudden, like, whoa, 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 hold on a second. Like we're talking about sacraments? I didn't think I thought we were talking about
No, no,
like
no. but the menstrual thing isn't a sacrament. An essential to the Christian faith is a relationship. That's what it is. It's ultimately a relationship with God. That's the
Right.
essential part.
But
And you interfered, interposed, whatever that word is, with that
intercepted.
relationship.
Right.
Yeah, but
Intercepted that relationship.
deliberately I took a priestly role of a servant
And I think,
with a
like I
wide
said, at the
stretch.
beginning of this
With a wide
call,
stretch.
this with the beginning of this call, this was unequivocally 3-1 against Mitch. And
Go to
now
confession, Sharif. You got to confess that. Confess that.
Yeah, I
Con-
confess to you,
this
public confession.
no,
listen,
go to
Absolve
your
me.
priest.
this is gonna be the one of the best mustache episodes of all time. So thank you for tuning in to I Mustache You Something.